Most people think World War II soldiers survived the cold because of heavy coats, wool blankets, or military-issued sleeping bags. That belief collapses the moment you read field reports from the Eastern Front, the Ardennes, or the Italian mountains. In reality, gear often failed. Supplies ran short, units moved fast, and soldiers slept in shell holes, barns, forests, and ruined buildings with little more than what they could carry. Yet one simple old-school method consistently kept men alive in conditions that modern campers would call unmanageable. This wasn't a piece of equipment. It was a system, and once you understand it, you'll realize why it often outperformed even the best sleeping bags of the era. If you stay with me for the next minute, you'll understand why cold kills from below faster than it does from the air, why many soldiers froze to death fully clothed, and how one overlooked technique quietly saved thousands of lives across multiple theatres of war. This is the kind of knowledge soldiers learned the hard way, passed mouth to mouth, not printed in manuals. And it still works today. The trick was ground insulation combined with body heat reflection, not piling on layers from above. World War II soldiers learned quickly that the earth was their greatest enemy at night. Frozen ground, wet soil, and stone floors drained heat relentlessly. Men could wrap themselves in blankets and still wake up numb or worse. Veterans repeatedly described nights where the cold came up through their bones, not down from the sky. The solution wasn't thicker bedding. It was separating the body from the ground entirely. Field improvisation became standard practice. Soldiers stripped branches from trees, gathered straw from barns, tore doors apart, scavenged cardboard, and even used empty ammunition crates flattened under their bodies. Anything that created an air gap between flesh and earth mattered more than another blanket. Air, not padding, was the true insulation. This principle is identical to modern cold-weather survival science, but World War II soldiers arrived at it through brutal experience. The second half of the system involved controlled heat reflection rather than body coverage. Small fires were often forbidden or, just impractical, but when possible, soldiers used reflective barriers to trap warmth. Logs, stones, helmets, even frozen earth walls were positioned to bounce heat back toward the body. In some cases, soldiers slept between two men, back to back, using shared body heat, while a low fire reflected warmth from one side. This wasn't comfort, it was survival math. A powerful example comes from the Eastern Front, where German and Soviet troops alike used thick pine bough beds layered well above the snow. Diaries describe beds nearly knee-high, topped with ground sheets or coats, then bodies curled tightly together. The insulation below did the real work. Men without this setup, even with blankets, often didn't last the night. The lesson was clear and repeated endlessly in veterans' accounts. If you solve the ground problem, the cold becomes manageable. Applying this today is straightforward and, honestly, shockingly effective. If you're forced to sleep outdoors without a sleeping bag, your first task isn't building a shelter or lighting a fire. It's building a bed. Gather dry materials aggressively. Leaves, pine needles, grass, bark, reeds, cardboard, spare clothing, even rope coils all work. Build the layer until it feels excessive, then add more. You want your body weight distributed over trapped air, not pressing heat into the earth. Once you've got insulation from below sorted out, it's important to manage heat around your body, not just on top. You can use windbreaks like packs, logs, or even the terrain itself to shield yourself. If you're able to have a fire, keep it small and manageable, and always put a reflector behind it. Something like a rock face or a log wall angled toward where you're sleeping can actually double the warmth you feel without burning any extra fuel. During the Second World War, soldiers quickly learned that fuel was precious, but clever positioning didn't cost a thing. Another critical aspect was moisture control. Soldiers were taught, often too late, that sweating before sleep was, well, deadly. Wet clothing robbed heat rapidly once activity stopped. Veterans described deliberately cooling down before bedding down, loosening gear, even removing damp layers despite the cold. Dry insulation underneath mattered more than heavy clothing on top. This runs counter to instinct, but honestly, it saved lives. The psychological discipline behind this trick also deserves attention. Soldiers who survived longest followed routines. Bed first, insulation second, wind protection third. Panic led to rushed fires and no bedding. Calm preparation led to sleep. Even in combat zones, experienced troops prioritized this system whenever they halted for the night. They understood that exhaustion plus cold killed faster than enemy fire. What makes this World War II cold weather trick so powerful is that it doesn't rely on gear, technology, or ideal conditions. It relies on understanding heat transfer and respecting the ground as the primary threat. Modern sleeping bags work because they replicate the system artificially. When they're gone, the original method still works. This knowledge belongs to history, but it also belongs in the present. Whether you're a serious historian, a survivalist, or someone who wants real fallback skills, this is the kind of lesson worth keeping alive. If this deep, practical history matters to you, subscribe to The Prepper Historian. Share this with someone who values real-world knowledge, and keep these hard-earned lessons from being forgotten.